In a stunning admission, the Justice Department now says two DOJ workers accessed, and then shared sensitive Social Security data. And one of them even signed an agreement with a political advocacy group that was working to overturn election results in certain states. Now, the DOJ doesn't know what data was shared on that server or whether the data still exists there. Harry Litman and Richard Stengel are back with us. Harry, it's not just that they shared that sensitive data. It was also on a non-secure third-party server and is about overturning elections, or at least associated with a group. What are the implications here?
You're really right, Chris. This is the worst nightmare that people were thinking about back then, and it absolutely has current implications for the election. So first, the DOJ misstated to the court. Terrible transgression. Basically, we were led to believe because DOJ misled them. Second, Social Security Administration information, the most private and sensitive of all data for Americans. And third, maybe most importantly, given and even an agreement signed to one of these voter advocacy groups that are pushing the argument that there's voter fraud out there. So really subject to the most pernicious use in favor of the canard that Trump keeps pressing, that there's a lot of voter fraud out there. That plus the misstatement that DOJ had to correct. It's the ultimate tail between your legs submission, but it's the ultimate thing we were worrying about then. DOJ, whoever the heck they were, and they seem to be sort of out of the picture now, but no, they gave the most sensitive data to a voter advocacy group associated with the right-wing arguments against Democratic victories in elections.
Yeah, and here we are again talking about these arguments about voter fraud that doesn't exist. And by the way, President Trump brought it up again today at Davos. Here it is.
It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news.
He says people are going to be prosecuted for fraud that didn't happen. But what about these two DOJ guys? What might happen to them?
Okay, first, that the president says that would normally be a joke, except who has decided in Trump 2.0 who's prosecuted? Donald Trump, so that you have to be really concerned. The DOJ did the minimum here. It referred these two employees for so-called Hatch Act violations, meaning they did political work while on the job working for all of us. But Chris, that's the sort of mildest administrative remedy. What really has to happen, we have a broader whistleblower complaint now that's in the court, is some kind of focus, both in the courts and Congress. A member of Congress today called this the worst data breach in the history of the United States, for really scrutiny of just what's going on and where those data are. Short of that, will there be criminal consequences? Potentially under the Hatch Act, but that's really the least of it for what has happened here.
So, Rick, last summer, Social Security's chief data officer actually resigned after filing a whistleblower complaint. Do you think we're ever going to learn more to the extent of what happened here and who's really behind it?
I think we will. And Chris, I went and read about that complaint today. I want to make one broader point before I get to the specific complaint. And this is in defense of the deep state. The federal government goes to extraordinary lengths to protect personally identifiable information, PII. There's the Privacy Act of 1974. There are so many laws and regulations that prevent your Social Security number, which is the most personal of PII, from going out there. In this complaint, the chief data officer collected in a file that are not connected to the internet. They're so sensitive that they don't want anyone to be able to access them. These two doge young guys who don't understand the idea of privacy, don't understand what the federal government does, wants to take that information and connect it possibly to the internet where it's available to people. By the way, we've had a lot of big data breaches over the last 15 years. The Chinese security services got millions and millions of data of federal workers. So this is very, very sensitive information, and the federal government goes to extraordinary lengths to protect it. That's why this administration is such an anomaly, that they don't regard any of those values that animated both Democratic and Republican administrations around privacy, because they're not protecting it at all.
I'm curious what you think, given that Donald Trump has never for once backed off on his belief that he won the 2020 election, which we all know he lost. What do you make of the fact that DOJ has come out with this?
You know, I mean, Harry made the point, and I think what's, again, so disturbing and anomalous and extraordinarily bad about this administration is that this norm that once separated the White House from the Justice Department, that a president of the United States could not tell the attorney general who to prosecute, that has been completely blown up. That basically now, you know, Trump is acting like his own district attorney and saying who he should prosecute. It's this kind of mob boss mentality, mob boss administration, and it's extremely dangerous.